All right, guys. So this is in media. This is an interesting argument that we see here. What the fuck? Bill Maher bristles when guest tries to defend Uvalde cops. So this guy is running, I think, for governor of California. His name is Michael Schellenberger. He fancies himself a very tough on crime liberal. He says, I used to have all the lefty opinions on policing and law enforcement, and I wanted to end the drug war. And I wanted to house the homeless. But now, looking at how big of a mess California is, I want to criminalize the homeless, and I want to be tough on crime. This is his whole shtick. I'm a tough on crime liberal. Well, Maher really gets into it with him here because he kind of defends the Uvalde police when obviously the Uvalde police are totally indefensible. Let's watch.
Well, people are a little angry about what happened there at the police in the horrible shooting in Texas a couple of weeks ago when they just remained outside. But, you know, the police in Texas are very conservative. They said, we don't go in unless it's an active groomer situation. No, the Texas police, they are very pro-life, mostly their own. Well, the question is this. I mean, after that horror unfolded, there was first the outrage about availability of weaponry in America, and then there was a second outrage about the fact that the cops stood outside and didn't do anything. And this is becoming a pattern in America. Parkland, there was a cop there, or a security guard, didn't do his job. The Mandalay Bay, the guy went up to the wrong floor and stayed there. What do you do about people who are paid to act and just don't? How do you solve that problem? Because, I mean, they could take away a lot of different kinds of guns. I mean, this kid was in the room for 40 minutes before anybody came in. It wouldn't have mattered what kind of gun he had. Any kind of gun could do any amount of damage in that time. What do you do about...
Let's just also say he shouldn't have a gun. If we had a national red flag law, yeah, an 18-year-old who held up a bag of dead cats said stuff like, I'm going to do a school shooting, and had acquaintances who referred to him as the school shooter, the red flag law could have prevented this kid from owning a gun. They could have confiscated his guns. And to argue that that's not a good law is psychotic. That's psychotic. So anyway, I wanted to make that side point, but let's see how Schellenberger responds to Maher's question.
Law enforcement who don't do their job.
And let me just say, my answer to that question is charge them. Not only should all the Uvalde police who are involved in this be fired, they should have been fired on day one, but they should actually be charged with negligence or something to that effect. Now, in Parkland, when the resource officer didn't do his job, they did charge him. I think he ended up getting off. So I don't know if you can actually succeed in charging them, but by God, you should try. You should try to throw the book at them because they deserve it. So this way, you disincentivize them from not doing their job. Because the training was, hey, you go in there, you engage immediately, follow the process, follow the procedure, stop them at any and all costs. And they just didn't do that. They didn't listen to their training. They trained for this exact situation in Uvalde. They didn't do that. So fire them and charge them. That's how you incentivize the proper action.
Possible question.
I mean, I think there was this initial reaction that these police officers were cowardly. I don't think we know that. I have to expect that. I have to expect that many of those police officers are having a hard time sleeping at night after.
We don't know that they were cowardly. My ass cheeks, we don't know that they were cowardly. Of course they were cowardly. They were the definition of cowardly. They set up a perimeter and held back the parents and tased some of them and handcuffed some of them and tried to get them not to go in. Weren't cowardly. They're the definition of cowardly. Well, we just learned, by the way, and we'll have more on this later, there weren't even any cops in the building. They said, we're in the building, we got them cornered. No, you don't. They weren't even in the building. They're the definition of cowardly. How can you say they're not cowardly? Oh, I feel really bad for them. I bet they can't sleep at night. Well, as Maher's about to say, good! I hope they can't sleep at night. I hope this haunts them the rest of their lives.
What's occurred.
Oh, I feel bad for them.
Well, I mean, I think
They should have a hard time sleeping.
yeah. Although
That's this. What the fuck?
The return of based Bill Maher, at least on this issue.
My concern is that I think when our institutions fail us, we are so quick to want to shut down the institutions, want to demonize the people in those institutions. Yes, they got training.
Yeah. Shouldn't you want to demonize the people in this institution for doing things that were demonic? We should demonize the demonic. We should demonize the lack of action, the lack of doing their job. What the fuck?
Training didn't work. The answer to it is going to be more training. It's going to be to.
They had all the training in the world. They had all the training in the world, all the procedures, all the processes in place. Everything was ready to go. They just had to enforce it. They chose not to enforce it. Fire them, charge them. Fire them, charge them. Fire them, charge them. How many times can I say it? And why can't he say it? What's preventing him from taking the common sense solution?
Get better at it. We focus on when things go wrong, but things mostly don't go wrong.
Well,
yeah, and when things don't go wrong, nobody's criticizing them. Oh, look, you did your job in a good way. Congrats. That's awesome. We're happy you did your job in a solid way there. Yippee skippy. But what? When they do something wrong, we can't talk about that? We can't criticize that? So what, you want to give them some sort of protected status? And the answer is yes. I mean, we do veteran worship in this country, and we do police worship in this country. And there are consequences to that. But finally, that fever is breaking because people are looking at how they acted and saying that's indefensible.
We need to learn from these mistakes.
It's not institutions, it's people. This is not institutions who didn't run into the building. It's people.
Yeah.
People didn't do it.
Yeah.
That's not an institution. And by the way, this is part of the problem with police training. Their training is all about how to preserve their life. Now, of course, we want them to be as safe as they can, but it is a job that entails danger. Somewhere they got it into their head, the cops, that it's better that I just preserve my health, but you're there to protect and serve us. That's the deal. You get to, walk tall all the time. Everybody kisses your ass. Everybody has to comply with you. And then once in a while, you just have to ball up and do the job. That's dangerous.
So that is yet again, we're visited by the squatting ass at the end of this segment. I mean, Mar's right. And I love the phrase ball up. I don't know if I've ever heard that one before. But yeah, they didn't do their job. They should be fired. They should be charged. And, they shouldn't, nobody should obfuscate on that point. Look, the final point is Michael Schellenberger. Why is he saying what he's saying here? It's very simple. He's defined himself as the tough on crime liberal. So there is a default position he has of defend the cops, defend law enforcement. Because law enforcement to him is the answer to homelessness, is the answer to drugs, is the answer to crime in general. Now, look, in many ways, I'm tough on crime. I'm the strongest proponent of international law you've ever met in your life. I think those laws should actually be upheld. I think Dick Cheney should be locked up. I think Henry Kissinger should be locked up. I think Dick Cheney should be locked up. I think Barack Obama should be locked up for his drone war, killing 90% innocent civilians. So in some ways, I'm tough on crime, but I'm tough on crimes that should actually be crimes. Murder, robbery, rape, war crimes, torture. I'm not tough on crime that shouldn't really be crimes. I don't want to criminalize the homelessness further. I don't want to criminalize the drug war and go into overdrive with locking more nonviolent offenders up. Schellenberger does. And so when he looks at the cops acting egregiously wrong, since his priors are cops good, law enforcement good, he can't just state the obvious. Because it's too much of a blow to his worldview to admit that. Well, look, this is why you guys know I call this narrative humpers. He's a narrative humper. And his narrative is police good, law enforcement good. And so he can't state the obvious here. And this is the problem with narrative thinking. You can't just always go back to a narrative. You have to look at the facts first, analyze the facts first, and then have a reasonable conclusion. He's not objectively looking at the facts. It's skewed by his framework of cops good, law enforcement good, no matter what. And that's how you get a situation where he kind of defends the Uvalde police in a situation where they did the indefensible. I mean, even the governor of Texas, Abbott, threw the police under the bus, and rightfully so, and he was aggressive as he did it. But Schellenberger can't do it. Because his whole thing is like, the solution to California's problems are more criminalization, be tougher on homelessness, be tougher on crime, and nothing's going to shake him from that position. So, look, credit to Maher there. Rare instance of based Bill Maher, but every now and then he comes back, and this is a good example of it here. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.